Here we go. Try and accept. Why would you use try and accept? Someone. To deal with an error, technically the name is exception. It's not an error. So just in case you all go into coding and you start calling it an error and someone's like, hey, it's actually an exception. You're like, yeah, I know, but does my code break? Yeah, then it's an error, okay? Geez, people. All right, so the reason you would do that is to code through or over an exception or an error as opposed to coding around it. So there are some things that you can't really use if statements and while loops for. One of the things we went over last week or yesterday or whatever, the previous day, 2 days ago, was if they typed in, does anyone remember what that was for? No? Okay. So what it was for is if someone typed in a string and we needed it to be a number, how would you determine if they typed in an integer or a string? Granted, you code it in such a way that if you don't determine that it's a string, if you don't designate that the input's an integer, it's automatically a string. But in grading your guys' quiz, I ran into a great reason why you should use try and accept as opposed to integers as if statements. So let me pull up that file. Yeah. Sure. All right, let me just comment out. And I have the code pre-written, but I want you guys to be able to follow along. So if I have my number and it's a float, now this is directly from your quiz, so you can copy and paste it from number 2. Input. So I'm going to go fast on this one just because you guys all have this info. You guys all have this code. So while oh, hang on, everything froze. Okay. Will, can you see me? Can you see me? Can you hear me? Okay, good. Sorry. It's the dock. Sometimes it wigs out and it just like turns itself off real quick. Okay, so while number is greater than 1 or number is less than or equal to 0, num is, and again, I'm just going to copy and paste. So while I'm running this, so this is what I was doing. I was grading your guys's, and I went -5, -0.5. Do you guys see the error? It's point minus 5. Exactly. So when I enter it, I get an error. Now, that was just a typo. I wasn't purposely trying to do anything. So one reason you can write a try and accept, again, I want you guys to realize if I did, you can make this just a string and do float. Right? I'm not saying try and accept is the end all be all. Okay? I just want to let you know that. But so if I accidentally type in, oh, I have an error. I don't want that. I want to make sure that if there's any type of error due to whatever reason, I don't want my code to crash. All right, you guys ever been playing a video game and your game just crashes? That's really annoying. We don't want that. Potentially. Or what if we're writing something that's monitoring someone's heart rate and we can't get we cannot afford to have our code crash like this. That's really bad. So we need to make sure that no matter what the user types in, we can deal with that. And that's what your guys' assignment is going to be, is to take your own code that you've written and try to break it and then fix the breaks. So if you ask for someone's name, what happens if you type in a number? What happens if you don't type anything in?
Or what if they ask how many times the number on this loop and then you type in a string?
Or a decimal, yeah. So I want you guys to write the code and deal with any sort of pop-up like that. So what we would do is, again, now you guys can copy this down because this is new. So while true, we're going to try having them type in a number. Again, I am just going to copy and paste. It's not because I'm lazy, it's because I'm efficient. Thank you. Only one person, remember that. Does the older Python class remember that? You're not part of the older Python class, Brendan. I don't mean to divide the class, but I said the older Python class.
That's not specific.
What do you mean? What was
Like this could, like the last semester could be kind of the old one.
Yeah, but I said at the beginning of the semester that those three are the old because I taught them not last semester, and everyone else is the young Python class. Also, I think you guys are all seniors, right? Junior, senior? Okay. Okay. So now we have our try. We're going to try having them type something in. We have to have an accept. Now, do you guys, when you type something incorrectly, if I type in a string and it's supposed to be an integer, I get this value error. We can specify the value error, or we can leave it blank. We're going to start by specifying the value error. We're going to print, please enter the
So it runs the try line until there's an error.
Yes, but I also don't actually evaluate this number. So we're just going to leave it as is. So this is just making sure that they enter in a number and not a string. We're not then evaluating the number. Okay? So I'm going to comment this out. Now when I run this, are we good? Did I do everything correctly? I'm going to put this down here so you can see both the code and the output at the same time. Please enter a number. Okay, well that's pretty good. No matter what they type in. I can't think of something that would break this. Now if I type in 1, oh, wait, 1.5? 0.5. You guys see? What's wrong?
There's no break in the loop.
There's no break or continue. When you have true, you have to have break somewhere. You don't always have to have continue.
Unless it's a conditional one, like if the loop has it.
So where do we put break?
After number. Yeah.
After here?
Yep.
So let's go back, typing in my gibberish. Hey, I typed in a number. It worked.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. Now we have try and accept. There's also else, which else happens if accept does not. number accepted.
But if you broke, like, if you break the like loop, does it not reveal?
It's a great question. Again, let's make sure. Yeah, it jumps out right there. So what we can do is instead of doing that, we put the break down there, and when we type in a number, we get number accepted. The question is, do we need break? What do you guys think?
Yeah.
You do?
I would think so. Unless else like jumps out.
Oh, that's a big one.
Don't you want it?
You do need the break. Okay? Just a little question for you guys. Now, so between these two, only one of them will ever happen. Either you get the error or you don't. You get an error or you don't. Like if, else, except, else. Thorn,
If you have multiple accepts in a row,
yes, you're getting ahead of me.
But what happens if you have multiple else's? So just run the first one.
You can't have multiple else's.
Yeah, I was just looking at the end of it.
Yeah.
Maybe else-
But instead of else, you can put finally.
Oh really?
Yes. What do you guys think finally does?
Because
Is
it
it
brings no loop.
the last thing it does?
It is the last thing it does,
Oh.
but
It always does it.
it always does it. That's it. That's the key. So even, so I put break here. Please enter a number. No matter what, this gets ran in a try and accept loop. Try and accept statement. Whatever's in finally gets ran, even though there is a break above it.
But why couldn't you just like get rid of the final and just put place the final and just like put the code that you want to run?
What do you mean, code I want to run?
Like if let's say you want to print question marks,
Yeah.
just like delete all of it and then like up to the finally and then like delete the finally and just put like the print there.
Like here?
No, yeah, but like one up, like where the finally was. Yeah. It's still in the while. You put it outside the while. Oh, does it? Oh, does the accept like bring it back?
So if I have break, it jumps out of the loop
Oh, I see.
and it never runs this.
Oh, okay.
So if you, now finally would work, you would put this if you always want this to run. Like, I want to keep track of how many times this happens until we get the number accepted. Actually, that's a good, let's try that. Let's do guess plus equal 1, guess is 0, print guess. So it took us 11 times to do that. So do you guys get, try, accept, else, finally? Try is the code we're going to attempt. Accept is what happens when an error pops up. That is the error, typically the error message you want to tell the person, or the thing, or you could even put continue in here. You don't really need to put continue in here, but because it automatically does it because you're in a loop and it gets to the end and it starts back over until you hit the break. Yes.
If you put continue in the accept part, does it skip the final?
Let's find out. No. just like the break doesn't skip the finally, the continue doesn't, because it's been written in such a way that you look at all of these lines, even though you have a break, because it's inside of a try, it has to look at this if you have finally. So finally, no matter what, will get ran. Okay, so that is real, like I'm saying, for this guess, it's good to keep track of how many times did you run into this error, things like that. Okay, questions so far? Okay, so now what we're gonna do is I'm gonna write a very, very, very simple function. Basically one that shows the example, because I don't really have the time to write a complex function right now. Excuse me. So let's just do define fun1, and that takes, not fin1, fun1, and that takes a value z. X is 10. Now, what am I doing that I tell you guys never to do?
I'm not naming variables specifically.
Yes, my variables should reflect what they are.
Like number.
So it should be like number 1, taxes, name, those sorts of things. Don't just code X, Y's, and Z's. I do it for example purposes because I'm not really trying to code anything that has any meaning. I'm just trying to show you examples. And we're going to return Y. Value is fun1. Give me a number.
12.
12. Okay, so here's our little 6-line function. It takes the value z, which is whatever number we type in the parentheses following the calling of the function. X is 10, y is x divided by z. We're going to return y. So what this is doing is whatever number we give it, it divides 10 by that number and then returns it. We're storing this value y as value and we're printing it. So 10 divided by 12 is 0.833333333. Did you guys know you could do that? Instead of making it a variable and then putting that variable in there, you just put the actual input in there. Fun little fact. So when we run it, Maddie, give me another number. 0. Ooh. Darn, code broke. What are we going to do? Try and accept. So we are going to write try this. And then we're just going to run except. So print there was an error. So now let's go back to 0. Okay, our code doesn't break. We coded around that. But what happens if we type in, like someone else said, 12? Well, the user needs to know what the answer is, right? If this is a calculator function that we're writing, I need to know the answer of what I just typed in, right? So what am I going to write? What should I do? Who wants to guess?
Finally, print y.
Okay, let's try finally. Finally. Okay, so if we type in 12,
If the try function.
well, there's no y. Who can tell me why there's no y? Who can tell me 再见, right?
Yes.
Why there's, how do you say the letter y? No, there's no y in the alphabet. 再见.
It's a local variable.
It's a local variable. Yes, yes. Who remembers what local variable means? Stockton?
It's only like usable inside function.
It's only usable inside the function. So this y, we can only print y inside of this function. So what would we, instead of y, what would we need to print? So the only, it's the only variable that we can. What?
F2Z.
Nope. Those are both local.
Value.
Value. There you go. Right, because we have value equaling y.
Wait, but if the try takes it over to the accept because there's an error, then will value still work?
I don't know. Let's find out. Okay, so it works if you type in the right number. But what happens if we type in 0? Nope. So instead of it being a finally atom, what should it be? Yes. Because we're either going to get an error or we don't. Maddie?
Can't you put it in 5 functions, like after value?
Print value here. There's an error, and yeah. It again, for me, I want the fewest number of lines in the try, and for me it helps me to have either this or that's going to happen. So because if I have a bunch of lines in here, I may not know 100% where my error actually is. Does that make sense? Okay. So now what we're going to do, then we're going to do, what should our finally be? Every time it runs, do we want to tell the user anything? Do we want to keep track of anything? This is kind of what you would use finally for. It's like, after every time, is there something I want the user to know, or is there something I want to do with what they're doing? Do I want to keep track of how many times they're doing it? Do I want to write this information to a file that they failed yet again? Or blah, 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 blah. Can you guys think of anything? There's no right or wrong answer for this one.
Maybe I mean, it's complex, but you can make a code that it does the same thing in twice. It just tells them that you did that. So you say finally. You can like store it on a list.
You could, but you couldn't do it this. You couldn't have this be in there then. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I see why.
Because actually, that's a good. Let's try. What happens if we type in? Hey. Well, wait. What's the difference? I don't know what error. If you're writing code, like I told you the other day, an unspecified error has occurred. Thank you, Microsoft. I don't know what that means, nor do I know how to fix it. We need to give people error codes. We need to tell them what's wrong. So this goes back to what Thorin was saying. Can we have multiple exceptions? Yes. But I need to know what those exceptions are. So what are some, the easiest ways would be to do something like this. What are the possibilities that I could have, what errors could I possibly have with these inputs? Not yet, because I'm talking just about this. So if I copy this, so if I type in 1, okay, I get a value error. If I type in 123, I'm okay. If I type in 0.5, oopsies, 0.5, I don't get an error. If I type in a negative number, okay. So it really is just if I type in a string, because float will handle any number that you give it, but it can't handle strings. So I'm going to type in this value error, and I can go except value error print. What would if the user typed in a string? Please enter a number, not letters / words. Does that get across the message? Okay. So now when we run this, and I type in 1, okay, there we go. Boom. But what happens if I type in 15? I still get the answer. But what is the error when I divide something by 0? 0 division error. So I'm going to copy that. And then I'm going to go accept 0 division error. Please do not enter 0. Any other number. So now when I run this, again, if I type in 0, please do not enter 0, enter any other number. Does that make sense? Yes, Adam.
Do you want it to ask a question and then enter one?
Yeah, I would put a while loop real quick. So I would do while true. I indent all of that 1. And at else, I want a break. How you all feeling with that? Good? Do you have any questions? I thought there was one more thing on. Oh, my dock froze again.
Wait, so it freezes your whole computer?
Freezes the monitors. It freezes everything that's going through this USB-C cable.
So not your Surface.
No, my Surface I can still see, but if I type, because this is going to the dock through, it doesn't work. So this has to reset. So I really hope, like, yeah, my recording is still working. It's just, you know, it's a little weird because why? I don't want to get into it. But the IT guy in me is like, because they have docks that Microsoft uses this port down here, the charging port, which has like a bajillion contacts. So if you look on your charger, you'll see 3 copper pieces of copper. If you look on the docks that use that same thing, it's like 3. So it has double the amount of those copper contacts, and what that allows to happen is instead of just power going into your Surface, it allows Ethernet, it allows USB, so everything, because the Surfaces only have like 1 or 2 ports, you get one of these things and it can do all the stuff you want it to. And because it's Microsoft, this is Microsoft, the dock is Microsoft, the cord is Microsoft, it works a lot better than sending everything through a USB-C port, in my opinion. I may be wrong, so the people on YouTube who know more about this than I do, please don't lambaste me. But in my experience, the docks with the USB-C ports are worse than the docks with the proprietary Microsoft port.
Yeah, I have.
So. But Microsoft, some of those docks only work if you don't have a case. So.
Mine works,
Can you like put holes in them?
but you have to like.
No, it's like the dock, so the company that makes this dock also has one that uses this proprietary port, but you cannot have any case on it because you slide the Surface in and then you close it. Like we did with the Surface 3s. Like if this has a case, it won't fit. So. Okay, so try and accept finally. Is there something we want to do here? That we finally, every time it runs through, we want to tell the user, or no?
Wait, so what were you doing?
What?
I remember you said an idea.
You're telling me what you want finally to happen.
I don't know. I remember someone said something and then. I wasn't gonna do it the next hour.
What?
Never mind.
Okay.
I'm trying to think.
Is there anything with this code that we would want to tell the user or keep track of every time?
Oh, anything like the error thing, you want to make it so that it says there's an error every time?
We did.
Oh, that's yeah.
Also, what happens if I do this? What is the E?
Oh, you can like print it. Oh, print the actual error.
It prints this right here as E. So you can type as E. Please do not, you know. Oops. Error message. Float division by 0. Please do not enter 0. Please enter any other number. So when you guys are coding and you guys get into your GUIs and complex stuff and you're reading and writing to other files, throwing try and excepts in there, one, helps the user, but two, as you're messing with it and making sure it works, and well, what happens if they type in a string as opposed to a number, you can, that's also a level of debugging, which we're actually going to skip that chapter, and I'll explain why later. But this is like your own, you are giving the messages to the user. And then there's one last thing I want to go over, but it's also time for break. This is also something that isn't covered in the book, but I think it's really cool, and it makes me feel like a coder that I know how to do this. Like everything else is, but like this is cool. So I'm gonna pause the video. You guys can go take a break, and I'll give you like some time. All right, pause. Are we good? Are we recording? Yeah, okay. So what we're going to do next, and again, this isn't in the book. So on quizzes and tests, I'll either specifically say use this website, or I'll give you hints and stuff on the quizzes and tests. But going forward, you all, one, should, when you write code, you should then try to break it yourself. And to fix those errors and exceptions, you should have try and excepts. So this isn't just something like, this is something that's like an if statement or a loop. This should just be woven into your code from now on. Like functions should just be woven into your code. These aren't individual things. Like if I'm only working with strings, then I'll do try and excepts. It's anytime you're running your code and you get an error, you should figure out why you got that error and code through it. So what we're going to do is we're going to learn how to make our own, these things, our own exceptions. Well, how do you do that, Mr. Stolter? I will tell you, Adam. Again, not that you sound like that, but again, this isn't in the book, so I have my website. Where is it? Is it this one? Okay. So these are some errors. So this is a website, pythonbasics.org. And these are built-in exceptions. So these are errors that come up as you code. So an assertion error, we aren't going to assert is part of debugging. So you can ignore that one. But attribute error is something like so hello dot append h. So an attribute error, I can't append something to the end of hello. I can only append something to a string. So if you're doing a variable, so let's do x is h, you do x.append, because again, you're loading something in from another file and you don't know if it's going to be an integer, a string, or whatever, you have it x.append e. Okay, well then you would try this. If you get an error, tell the person, hey, your format of blank is wrong. This should be a string. This should be a list, not a string. And a file. Some of these are errors like this. It's a syntax error, so they're not going to necessarily show up in red text like these. But the attribute error, floating point generate import error, so you imported the wrong module. Again, that's really good if you have, please enter the name of the file you want to import because you wrote your own file, you wrote your own random. Let's say it was, taxes, import taxes, and that has all of your code to do all of your taxes, but you mislabeled it or you saved it in the wrong spot. You try to import it, you get an error, you fix it that way. Key error, so if key is not found in the dictionary, so these are a bunch of them. But what we want to do is we want to have a lunch error, right? So the way we're going to do that is we haven't gone over classes, and I don't think we're going to, because one, this class is focusing on automation, and yes, can you use classes in automation? You can use classes in anything, but in order to understand, if this was a year-long class, I totally would. But I only have so much amount of time, and I want you guys to have that automation experience. Because classes, you can learn anything anywhere, but whatever. So we're gonna say class lunch exception. No, lunch error. Sorry. Notice exception changed color. That means it's a predetermined word, method, thing in Python. So this is just like, almost just like a function, right? You just have class instead of define, you have the name, and then this is, long story short, you can make this class be essentially a subclass of that one. And that's kind of what's going on here. And then we're just going to do pass. We're not going to do anything. Pass is basically just keep going. So if you have if x is 10, you can click pass. And it allows it to, it just passes. It just goes to the next line. That's all it does. So what we're going to do is and then you type raise. I know it's a terrible explanation, but for this, you don't need to know what it does other than to write your own exception. This is what you do. Raise lunch error, and then we're going to go programmer went to lunch.
Wait, when does this error get called?
Wherever you have the word raise. So let's do this. Let's throw this up here. And finally, so no matter what, it raises this error. So we have coded, hey, you get an error, this is how you code around it. Sometimes we may want the thing to crash. We just wrote our own ability. This is how you make your own error.
Where did you put it up above?
Just right above it. So if you want to make custom error messages, you can do that. So like, let's say for example, I've had to upload forms to like Adobe or whatever to create accounts, and sometimes it says it doesn't work, start over. This would be in a time when you would have that error saying, listen, your text file that I'm reading from is in the totally wrong format. You need to, we're stopping this code. We don't need to code around it because our entire code is written for a specific format and you don't even have anything close to that. It's not like this one variable is a string and it needs to be a list. Sorry, fix that real quick in that file. This is, hey, your first line needs to be these three things and you don't have any of them. Let's raise the error, and then we could say, instead of a lunch error, we could say Your form is totally wrong. Start over. And so even though your form is totally wrong, start over. Oh, okay. Then I'll go back over here and do yada, 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 yada. Again, you can have more than one of these. You can have, again, I'm just going off of this website. We can do class, no money, exception. That should be error. And then we can raise, so oh my gosh, so many typos. Does that make sense?
I think you have a different error just because the typo in the class.
What typo?
I think there's.
Oh, thank you.
How do you know what money is? I don't think we can find that there.
I sneaked it in there. Does that make sense to everyone? Questions? Okay, so I'm going to save this. Almost sneeze. And then what I want you all to do for homework is I am going to find a file. I think I have your guys' old files. Adam, when did you take this class last? Let's see, because if I have one of your old codes, I'll select one and then I'll give it to you. I'll try to give you guys the whole, aha. Oh, wait, is that this class? Yeah. Because I don't want you all to just pick your own file because it might be like 6 lines and like, I'm done. So give me a minute. Let me find files for you because I want you all to do the same assignment. And all I want you to do is, it might be like one of your old tests. So the newer students may have a slightly different version of the test than the older students. However, I want you all to go through, break your code, and try to put and fix and code over as many exceptions as you can. So what I'm going to do when you turn it in is I'm going to go, okay, it's an input. Did they code for the value error? Did they, if, I'm just going to go through and see what I can do to break it. I won't really change, like, if you have a list, I won't change it to a string and go, oh, well, your append doesn't work because it's a string. However, as we go further and we read, I'll get to you in 1 sec, Thorn, and we read from files and do different things like that, you will have to start doing that. But to start with, this will basically just be with inputs. And as we get later in the class, we'll actually go through something that's called PyInput Plus. And basically, you can say, I want this input to be a string. And as long as it's not a string, it's one line of code that has that loop and all that stuff in it. So it's really, really cool. With you, with the older class, oh, wait, none of you have taken the advanced class before. That's why you're in this one, duh. Okay, Thorn.
I was just asking, do you want specific error messages or just coding over errors?
Just do the try and accept. So I will let that, obviously tell the user what's wrong, but you don't necessarily have to have accept value error as E print E. You can just say, hey, type in a number, not a letter, that sort of thing. So give me just a minute to make that assignment visible. And that's it for the video, so I'm going to stop that.